We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we truly love everything in college football. And if you love everything in college football, if you need that extra little bit of content to get you through the day, subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. It helps with the YouTube algorithms so very, very much. And share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate to this completely independent YouTube college football channel, just hit that $, make a comment, donate to the show, and we'll get to your comment as fast as we can. We got a call-in number now here at Peek Around the Corner. It's 763-260-1333. That's 763-260-1333. We will open up the phone lines after we go through our monologue here at Peek Around the Corner. Like always, I have my monologue. Then we'll get to your comments and to your phone calls as soon as possible. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Big 12 Dallas meeting. Has there been any leaks? Has there been any leaks? If you're here of any information, put it in the chat or give us a call here at 763-260-1333. We're also going to be talking about Alabama. Nick Saban, what are you doing? Targeting Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, Notre Dame. We put out an episode 142 early in the day. We're going to be going through it here at Peek Around the Corner. But we're going to start out tonight. We're going to be going through an article from Heartland College Sports article by Poot Mundo, talking about how he believes that the Big 12 has surpassed the Pac-12 as the premier conference in college sports. I'm going to be going through that article. That's the first thing we're going to do. But first of all, I need to say thank you. Thank you to our sponsors of this show. Welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. At Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters, your coffee is roasted in a healthy, safe, environmentally safe electric heating element coffee roaster. We never use propane nor natural gas to roast your coffee. Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters offers organic Bali Blue Moon, organic Ethiopian, organic Colombian, 3 of the highest grade organics money can buy. Let me tell you something. My wife, Mireya Hernandez Garcia Flugar, the moderator, affectionately known as the Little General. She was born in Mexico City. She grew up in Mexico City. She spent her first 30 years of her life in Mexico City. She's the connoisseur of coffees from all over the world. She says that Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters is the very, very best. You can't get better than this. From craft to cup, hand-picked coffee beans. It is smooth, smooth, smooth. There is a link in the description box at the bottom of the video. Give it a look. Give it a look. Try this coffee. And if you do so, when you order it on the website, if you want to support this YouTube channel, peek around the corner, put PATC in the comments section. But I heavily strongly advise that if you are a coffee lover, try Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Okay, now let's get to Heartland College Sports article. We're going to get to this right now. We're going to start out the show hot and heavy. This article is going to get some people upset. I don't really even totally agree with the article per se, but I think it should be thrown out there. Look, a lot of people on Twitter, internet, message boards, all over the place are declaring Pac-12 not a Power 5 conference anymore, or declaring that the Big 12 is not a Power 5 conference anymore. Peek around the corner, we say both of them are Power 5 conferences, even though UCLA and USC just got poached, even though the Big 12 has been poached many times before. Both are Power 5 conferences, and you ask Greg, how can that be? Why is that? Because they're both recognized by the ACC, the Big Ten, and the ACC, the Big Ten, and SEC as Power 5 conferences. Their payouts for 2024, 2025 playoffs, each school in the Power 5 gets paid out way more than the G5 schools. Those conferences, the Pac-12 and the Big 12, are going to get paid at the same rate as the other 3 Power 5 conferences. So when you're talking about an athletic conference, yes, the Big 12 it will remain a Power 5 conference. The Pac-12, if they survive, and I don't see how they couldn't, no matter what happens here in the next 60 days, they're going to be a Power 5 conference. So all this talk about this conference is not Power 5, that conference is not Power 5. They're both Power 5. I probably upset everybody in the chat room with that statement, but that's the way it is. Now, Pac-12 universities, they're a high research university, overall higher academic universities. We know this. The Pac-12, it's what's keeping the Pac-12 together. It's why they still are the slight favorite to stay together in the Pac-12. They're the favorites not to get poached by the Big 12. Because they want to stay together. They are Pac-12 universities. They have a commonality. They are huge research universities. Having said that, I think it's important that we at least acknowledge the change in the landscape, Pac-12 versus Big 12. I think this article does a good job with that. Again, put your comments down in the comment section. We will get to them after this monologue, talking about this issue, and also talking about Alabama, Nick Saban going after Tommy Rees. Oh my. Pete Mundo posted February Second, today, Heartland College Sports, we'll go through it real quick. It's indisputable that it's been a rough several months for the Pac-12 Conference. The league appeared blindsided when USC and UCLA announced last summer they were leaving the league to join the Big Ten Conference. And despite what you may have heard from various media outlets, the Pac-12 Conference has become a distressed brand, according to an industry source, adding, the Pac-12 is not appointment viewing. I think we can all see that through the last 10 years of the ratings that you get for Pac-12 football. That leaves the league scrambling for partners in a TV deal that they hope comes close to where the Big 12 will be in its next contract. It was only a few months ago when the race was on to determine who would become the number 3 conference in America behind the SEC and the Big Ten. The Big 12 and the Pac-12 started from the same position. But with the way the Big 12 Conference has maneuvered and navigated the last several months, it's become clear the Big 12 Conference is set up to take over as the number 3 power conference in college athletics, while the Pac-12's journey has been defined by missed opportunities, overplaying their hand, and not having a read on the market of their own value moving forward. Now, this is the very interesting part of this article. Where did everything go wrong for the Pac-12? It all started with the TV negotiations. Brett Yormark took over as Big 12 commissioner on August 1st. This was 1 month after the Trojans and Bruins stunned the college sports landscape with their announcement. The former COO of Rock Nation hit the ground running with trips to Big 12 campuses, learning the league and the landscape while figuring out what was working and what was not. Later that month, the Big 12 confirmed it would begin negotiations on a new TV deal. The fact that ESPN and Fox were willing to negotiate early, the deal ran through 2024-2025, took away a big advantage of the Pac-12's. As their Commissioner George Kliakoff had previously said, his league was in the inevitable position of being next to the marketplace. This is what we talked about at Peek Around the Corner when it happened. It was a big achievement that Brett Yormark was able to move up the scheduling of his next Big 12 media deal. Moved it way up and actually got the deal done before the Pac-12. By the time Yormark and the Big 12 Conference got to the end of September, the league had appointed WME Sports and IMG Media, both Endeavor companies, to facilitate its global content and commercial strategy. At the time, Yormark said, "We have aligned with the best-in-class team to build a best-in-class business strategy for the conference. As we open for business to elevate the Big 12, the expertise and knowledge WME Sports and IMG Media bring to the table is critically important to analyze, evaluate the merit of commercial initiatives that strengthen our brand. This is where the Big 12 rapidly began to rise to surpass the Pac-12 in the conference hierarchy." Here it is. Here's the money shot of the article. At this time, Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliakoff was using Doug Pearlman to negotiate his potential next television contract. Pearlman is the founder and CEO of Sports Media Advisors, an advisory firm which he has operated since 2009. Pearlman and Kliakoff have a relationship that dates back to the days at the University of Virginia Law School. While his resume included senior roles at NHL and IMG, a deal of this magnitude may have been more than he could handle. The Big 12 was already off and running with Endeavor, a multi-billion-dollar firm with over 7,000 employees. While the Pac-12 was misreading the market, the Big 12 Conference jumped in and didn't over or under ask and agreed to a fair deal. And of course, as we see here, Peek Around the Corner, they were able to get those really good exposure window slots at Fox and ESPN. They locked it up for the next 7 years. Less than 1 month after hiring Endeavor, the Big 12 had new media rights deal with Fox and ESPN. The 6-year media rights agreement was reported as being worth total of $2.28 billion and an annual average of $388 million. The Big 12, which has 2 years remaining on its current deal, runs to the 2025 season at an annual average of $220 million in the final years. According to an industry source, we're going to bounce through to the next paragraph, Brett Yormark's relationships in the business, combined with the university's trusting in him and his judgment, meant the Big 12 is unified in its approach, along with member institutions, which expedited the process to get this deal done. Yormark's background speaks for itself, dating back to his time as NASCAR, helping to negotiate this deal with Nextel, which was the largest naming rights at its time. As a result, by completing this new TV deal prior to the exclusive negotiation window with ESPN and Fox, the Big 12 received stability and security, which they gave them a chance to go seek an extended grant of rights with their member institutions and a leg up on any future conference expansions. In addition, with the shorter deal, the Big 12 will be back in the market ahead of both the SEC, whose deal ESPN goes through 2024, and the ACC, whose deal expires in 2036. A flailing Pac-12, fast forward to October, and the Pac-12's negotiation with ESPN and Fox failed and headed to open market. In other words, Pac-12 could have probably gotten the same type of deal the Big 12 got, right? But it failed. Now, as the calendar turns to 2023, the media landscape in as much different place than it was even 6 months ago. The advertising industry is off to a slow start, and media companies are preparing for an economic downturn. This is what we've been talking about at Peek Around the Corner for the last month. The media market has tightened. Ad buy rates has been lowered. As a result, companies are looking at their assets and asking themselves, what do we need? An industry source noted earlier, if the Pac-12 is not appointment viewing, do they have the leverage to get a media mega deal done? The clock is ticking, so forth and so on. I think it was important to lead off this show with this article because it basically ties everything together, what we've been saying all along here at Peek Around the Corner. All of it. Since the time that Brett Yormark was able to move up the scheduling of this new media deal, the Pac-12 failed to get a deal done in its exclusive window, and on and on and on. What was interesting about this article, in my opinion, was the choice that George Kliavkoff went with and who was advising him to get a media deal done and who Brett Yormark went with. Endeavor, a multi-billion-dollar company with 7,000 employees who have done this over and over again in the past. Okay, nice to see you guys all in the house. Jim, Lewis, Tony, Garrett, Rebecca, James, David, Monovision, Rock Chalk, West Virginia guy, Matt Higgins. Thanks for all coming in. Let's get to the next story, and then we'll open it up to your comments and to your phone calls, okay? I want to talk about what's going on. What is going on in Alabama? Chris Lowe, ESPN, earlier today, Notre Dame's offensive coordinator Tommy Rees has emerged as the top target for Alabama football offensive coordinator job. Rees has had discussions with Nick Saban and is scheduled to be on campus Thursday. Sources tell ESPN Saban is looking to replace Bill O'Brien, who left for the Patriots offensive coordinator job. I have not made it a secret how I feel about Tommy Rees. I think the best way you can describe his tenure at Notre Dame is very, very average. Average at best. Is this who Nick Saban truly wants to take in as their next offensive coordinator? This is what I put down earlier today in my Twitter account, Notre Dame 2022 versus Marshall. They just gained 350 yards and only 21 points, the offense. They lost that game. Later in the season, Stanford, a very poor, weak defense, especially near the end of the season. Notre Dame only put up 300 yards and 14 points. There's the Irish dancing. If those are the Notre Dame fans dancing in the streets, if Tommy Rees actually becomes Alabama's new offensive coordinator. Notre Dame was 60th in all of FBS football, 60th in offensive production, yards per game, sitting in between Air Force and Oregon State. Notre Dame, with all those 5- and 4-star offensive linemen, is this who Nick Saban wants to take his offense? The person who will control Nick Saban's offense, calling the shots, being the play caller, Tommy Rees. Stuart Mandel. A lot of people agree with Peek Around the Corner. This is quite a curveball. Rees offenses have rarely been that impressive. Very, very average. I think that's the kindest way to put it. Pete Sampson, who covers Notre Dame football, Notre Dame's media availability with graduate transfers Sam Hartman, Thomas Harper, Caleb Smith, and Javante Jean-Baptiste has been postponed from tomorrow to the following Friday, February 10th. Does that have anything to do possibly with Tommy Rees becoming the new Alabama offensive coordinator here in the next 24 hours? I do not know. So those are the two big main stories. Dallas, Big 12 meeting. I want you to tell me what you think is going to happen, what is going on right now. The meeting goes on tomorrow for Friday as well. And I think we've learned over the years the juicy stuff comes at the end of these meetings. But we'll see what you guys say, what you guys are thinking. So welcome in, everybody. James Foster, oh yeah, going live. Looking forward to what happened in the Big 12 meeting today in regards to football. Monovision, no future Big 10 expansion without Notre Dame. Well, I do have some news from Monovision, Mr. Buckeye, and everybody that's in the chat room. It was like about 8 minutes before we went live, it was reported that Gene Smith has left everybody know that he is not interested in becoming the Big Ten commissioner. So Gene Smith is off the list. He's not number one anymore at the college football Peek Around the Corner hot board list for the new Big Ten commissioner. Gene Smith is off the list. So for now, for this live show, we're bumping Jim Phillips up from 2 to 1, and we're bumping Mark Silverman, the Fox Sports president, from 3 to 2. You guys let me know who should we put in as that number 3 spot for the hot board list for the new Big Ten commissioner. West Virginia guy, things are not looking good for the Pac-12. Rock chalk. What happened with Gonzaga? Well, Big 12, they're talking about Gonzaga right now, and I don't think there was any way that Gonzaga was going to make any decisions on their future until they see what the new Pac-12 media deal looks like. Of course, that's been pushed and pushed and pushed, so Gonzaga's decision has been pushed and pushed and pushed. It was reported, Rock Chalk 94, it was reported yesterday by Dennis Dodd that it's Mark Few, the great head coach of Gonzaga's men's basketball team. He's the one that looks like is going to make the decision on what Gonzaga does. Stay in the WCC, which I don't think there's much of a chance, or move to the Big 12, the Pac-12, or the Big East. It sounds like Mark Few is going to be making the decision. Hold on one second here. Okay, the phone lines are open. It's call 763-260-1333. The floor will be yours. You can talk about anything you want in college football. James, Could the Big 12 get more TV money by adding that fourth window? Maybe that's why neither the Big 12 or its TV partners have announced the TV deal extensive officially. More money may be available to the Big 12. Absolutely, James. Absolutely. Yes, Fox and ESPN would love if the Big 12 was able to get some schools on the West Coast to fill in that fourth time window periodically during the season, once or twice, maybe 3 times. That would increase the value of the Big 12 deal, increase the bandwidth of the deal. Yes, absolutely. It's possible. Now, Big 12 just can't grab anybody. Fox Sports and ESPN, there's a pro rata clause in the ESPN portion of the contract. We'll get to you at that comment later. We got a call coming in.
Call from
Rebecca.
Rebecca is in the house. Nice to hear from you, Miss Husky. The floor is yours. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I want to point out there was an article today from John Canzano, and he talked about the Pac-12 pretty in depth. His sources have said that nobody's actually seen a number yet for the media deal. Nothing's been produced to anybody. So the president have not even heard what that number is. They don't know. The other thing was that he pointed out was that the Pac-12 still has to figure out how they're going to make up that $50 million that they have to pay back to Comcast. But I think it's time we stop with the Kliavkoff bashing and just kind of see what he's doing. We don't the weird thing about it is everybody's treating him like Larry Scott, and we need to kind of give him a chance here.
Yeah.
I know that we expected by now, everybody expected by now that there'd be something, but he's doing his job, if you think about it, trying to get the most money that he can. So, as much as we're bashing him and we're saying things, it's more of people are now at this point just frustrated. Let's let him do his thing. He was at Hulu when they started their live and started branching up that way. So he kind of has a little bit of it. He knows what he's doing in that aspect. And, yeah, he hired a friend, a trusted person. And, we haven't heard leaks. We're hearing little things, but the only person who knows is Kliavkoff and his assistant. Pretty much it.
You make a great and valid point, Rebecca. I'm probably guilty more than anybody else, maybe bashing too much. I will say, I do think that the criticism George Kliavkoff coming from me and others was valid when we knocked him for some of the things he said that was a little loosey-goosey on the facts that I think hurt his credibility somewhat in regards to UCLA making less money if they joined the Big Ten, and he actually doubled down. Things of that nature, I think he deserved an elbow or two. However, I also praised George Kliavkoff for how he handled the $50 million Comcast situation. From all accounts, from all reports, he moved on it as fast as possible when they found out the mess that they were under. And again, I don't think, this is just my opinion, my speculation. I don't think that situation is, they have to pay it back, but I don't think it's it's hurting the Pac-12, right? In their current negotiations. You know what? I don't think it's affecting anything else that's going on. That's just my opinion. On the Canzano article, I did read it. It was interesting. Okay, so, and maybe you can correct me, Rebecca. It read I'll let you know what my perspective of that article was, and then you tell me if I'm off the rails on it.
Okay.
It sounded like no one has seen an offer. None of the Pac-12 university presidents have seen an offer. Now, it was reported, and I want to say it was Wilner Canzano, but I'm not sure. But it was reported 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, something, that the Pac-12 actually made an offer to ESPN and Amazon. Like I said, this is what we would go for. Somebody reported that. My perception is that there obviously, or I'm saying obviously, maybe it's not obviously, maybe I'm wrong, but you would think that Amazon and ESPN, possibly CBS, they've made some sort of offer, because this has been going on for a long time now. Some numbers have been pushed to the commissioner and then possibly to the executive committee of Washington State, I think, and Stanford's presidents, right? I mean, you would think they have seen something, but it hasn't been good enough, or they know they can't build consensus around that. It hasn't gone to the other Pac-12 presidents. That's how I'm reading it. Am I wrong in how I'm reading it?
No, that's how I read it. So
okay.
What I read was, yes, and I think it was Wilner that reported, like, before UCLA, the Regents and all that stuff, something had been said in regards to like the TV deal. So like they had, I think somebody reported they had numbers for with UCLA and without UCLA. So, but I think at that point, Amazon had not entered the foray. Like, we had not heard about Amazon. So they had not entered, they hadn't put their hat in the ring and said anything. That all came after the UC Regents and like in between the holidays. But, and that again, that could be throwing the wrench into all of this, is Amazon trying to figure things out. Especially when you read like what he said, and these are things that I have seen when I've been reading about streaming platforms probably taking over starting in like 2027-ish, 2028. Yeah. It's like not a bad thing if the Pac-12 puts their, don't do all of it, and don't deal all your cards to Amazon, but maybe be the second or third tier. But no, I read it the same way you did. Like nobody has actually approached the Washington president. She's not been seen or shown anything. She's probably been kept in the loop, as well as the Washington State and Stanford president.
Okay.
But the three of them haven't actually physically seen a number.
Okay. Okay. Then that's.
They haven't been, and I checked with an athletic department friend at Washington.
Okay.
Who is a great, like, he's been a really good source for me for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And his thing, like, they haven't heard much in terms of anything. Like Washington, his thing about Washington and Oregon not flexing their muscle and pushing anything, that is all true. They're like, they're pretty united, and Arizona State has a wandering eye. Mm-hmm. But Arizona State, for whatever reason, I think they feel like they're more valued than they should be. But that's a personal thing there.
Yeah. A couple of things. One is it's hard to flex your muscle when you haven't even seen any numbers. So when I read that from Casano, it was like they haven't even got to that part of it yet. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's nothing to flex when you don't know what you're even dealing with. I already forgot my other point.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
The other thing is the number. Let's say it's 25 million, like we've heard, right? It's 31 million for the Big 12, if I'm not mistaken. That's kind of what we heard, right?
Yeah.
We're talking $6 million, but that money doesn't include, it's 10 schools, not 12, because they're going to do the money and then expand after the fact. So
yeah,
they'll figure, it whatever it figures out to be. But
yeah,
$6 million is a drop in the bucket for a school like Washington or Oregon to like make up. So it's like, as long as those two stay, the others aren't going to go anywhere because there's no money to be made. But, they might get another, if Arizona and them were to go to the Big 12, they might only get another 5 or 6 million.
Yeah. I mean, You're right. If Oregon and Washington State, I mean, again, I still think the favorite is that the Pac-12 stays together. I think it's gone from like minus 750 to minus 150 on the sports books board, but I still think it's the favorite. And because 6 million or what, I'm not even, that 25 million, it's probably incorrect. It's probably more than that. The dollar figure is probably not even really. I don't think that's even the big ball game. I think the big ball game is the exposure piece. For example, I do feel a frustration of the reporting that's going on. I feel like we're getting ping pong back and forth in this regard. We are told by like Andrew Marchand and John Aran, Sports Business Journal, and others, that Amazon really isn't interested in tonnage. They don't have to fill up these programming slots. They're by appointment only viewing. They would not be interested in Pac-12's third tier content. What's being played at the Pac-12 network right now wouldn't be played on Amazon. I mean, that's what some people are reporting. And it makes sense to a certain point. But Amazon would only be really interested in the top tier content, tier 1, the top game of the week every week, or rotate it every other week like an ESPN. And if that's the case, if that reporting is accurate, if that's the case, this is the point where I think Oregon and Washington stands back and say, are we willing to risk our exposure piece of this whole thing, having our top games, 50% of our top games, being played on Amazon, where we know there's going to be a drop in viewership, at least for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, however long it takes for this to get on the come, where the streaming application really is deemed to be a normal way of viewing for people across the country. That is where I think Amazon and Washington would say, whoa, most of our content, top content, an Oregon versus Washington game, that could be being played on Amazon once every 2 years or every year. Stuff like that, that is where I think the trouble lies, right in that area of discussion. But again,
no, I agree with you there. My thing with the Amazon is, but the Big 12, the ACC, the SEC are all on ESPN, right?
Yes.
We out here on the West Coast, we have these weird times. So a 4:30 game for us is 7:30 out east.
Yep.
That is a primetime game.
Yep.
And
yep.
Like, as much as we complain about our 7:30 p.m. game, that's 10:30 out east.
Yeah.
And these other conferences aren't playing that game, right? Like, BYU could. Technically, BYU could. But that's, it's one game, and they can't do that every week. It's not sustainable for the Big 12. But for the Pac-12, it's like, I was saying this to a friend earlier when people were talking about NBC and CBS, and I said, NBC has SNL. Saturday Night Live out west airs at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. Is when it's live. If the game starts at 7:30 p.m. out west, that game is over at 10:30 p.m. out west. That is 1:30 in the morning. That would be SNL. That wipes out SNL's actual episode, and that's the show. Like, that is the primetime show on Saturdays nowadays, because everything else is kind of like random shows, like repeats or like, you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
What is CBS going to do? CBS could put it on.
Yes, they could.
And it would fill their void. But if CBS has like USC or UCLA, they're going to take precedence because that's what the contracts say. They have to put them ahead.
Yeah. But CBS is not going to do primetime Big Ten games. So that window is open.
Yeah, that's the open window. Yeah. And it's like, if the other thing with NBC was, where do you go? Like, you also have Notre Dame. It's like Notre Dame's going to play the same random times.
Yeah.
CBS could do it, but, you know, it would take away their prime time. It would also like interfere on their local news networks, which also has to play a part. So
yeah,
it's like,
it does.
It's a balancing act. It's kind of crappy out west. I think it's why it's so complicated. I think the farther you go east, the easier it gets. The farther you go west, the more complicated it gets. Yeah. But I'm not going to take up any more of your time, Greg.
Yep.
Love the show.
Thank you.
I want to try the coffee. I got to find out if they're here in Seattle.
Got it.
Because, you know, we love our coffee out here. All right.
You got
have a good
Thank
day.
You.
Go Huskies.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great phone call from Rebecca. Like always. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. If you call, the floor is yours. Talk about anything college football. Thank you, Jason, for your super chat donation. I appreciate it, good sir. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on here at the Peek Around the Corner studios. Your question is, do the Pac-12 presidents not understand they don't have alternatives to ESPN and they need to sign the Gore and TV rights? Well, you know what? I'm glad you asked this question. Or it's your statement, actually. You know, the more I think about this, the more the chances of the Pac-12 putting their, selling their Pac-12 network, getting rid of it, just being a production company, and putting their third-tier content in ESPN Plus, like the Big 12 does. I think that is probably what's going to happen. I think that, and you know, and that's going to give more access to everybody to watch Pac-12 Olympic sports, non-revenue sports across the country. So an alumni from Oregon who's living in Florida can put on ESPN Plus and watch the game. It will give just like for the Big 12 schools, it gives better access. It doesn't give much revenue. Basically, ESPN Plus gives enough revenue for that school to be able to, or that Pac-12 conference, that production company. It will give enough money to pay for the production of those sports. ESPN Plus only produces a small sliver of the sporting events you see on that platform. The rest of it has to be produced by the school or the conference. So, you know, if these reports are accurate that Amazon isn't going to take in that third tier content and that they just want to have the top content in the Pac-12, I would guess that the Pac-12 Olympic non-revenue sports, all that's going to go into an ESPN Plus. It's going to be called Pac-12 Now, just like it's called Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus, and that's the way to go. Do they need to sign the Gore and the TV rights? These schools will sign a grant of rights. What we have heard and what we have communicated forward to everybody is, you know, grant of rights, they're not all written the same way. The penalties to try to get out of a Gore, sometimes those are laid into the conference bylaws. All conferences' bylaws are written different. All I can tell you is the Oregon Money Perch told us that Oregon will not sign any grant of rights that has the teeth like the current Pac-12 grant of rights has, or the Big 12 current grant of rights has. So we'll see what happens. Will there be some grant of rights that's signed after the media deal's done? Yes. But we'll look into, we'll see what the Pac-12 publicly disclosed bylaws are going to look like after this deal is done, and we'll see what happens. But yes, do Pac-12 need ESPN? They don't have alternatives. They have alternatives, but I generally agree with what you're saying, Jason. At this time, ESPN's going to get a slice of the content. As Andrew Marchand and John Aron said in their sports media podcast, was it yesterday or the day before? They said that ESPN, they would want it. They would want a slice of the Pac-12 media contract, but they don't need it. So it's not like the Pac-12 has a whole bunch of leverage. But I would agree. I think the Pac-12 is going to go with ESPN. Hopefully they get that primetime slot with CBS. Hopefully they can nail that down. And then I don't know what's going to happen with Amazon. I'm starting to feel like maybe that isn't going to happen. We shall see. We shall see. Rebecca, thank you for the call and for the donation. I appreciate it so very much, Rebecca. Your support to this channel, your phone calls mean so much to us. Thank you, Rebecca. Odds that ESPN starts a Pac-12 after selling out their network. Are you asking what are the odds of the ESPN starting a Pac-12 network? I don't think it. I think it's zero. Actually, I think what's going to happen is the Pac-12 puts their third tier content into ESPN Plus. And the difference between that and, let's say, an ACC network and an SEC network and a Big Ten network is, and all three of those networks are different, by the way, but those three networks are tied into how many subs that network has, how many subscriptions, what the ad buy rates are, and what is the relationship between the conference and the sugar daddy who built the network, which is Fox Sports for the Big Ten and ESPN for SEC Network and ACC Network. Remember, ESPN owns all of the ACC Network. ESPN owns all of the SEC Network. Fox Sports owns now, I think it's 69% or 61%, excuse me. Fox Sports owns 61% of the Big Ten Network. So the success of those networks, the ad money that comes in, that all gets doled out to the universities and the conference. While the Big 12, for example, right now, it doesn't matter if the ESPN Plus gains 10,000 subscribers, 20,000 subscribers. None of that puts more money into the coffers of the Big 12 schools. They're getting a flat fee. Whatever was agreed upon at the time of the contract, that is what they get. So it's not tied in directly to the success of. So do I think the Pac-12 is going to get a Pac-12 network that's owned by ESPN like ACC and SEC? No, I don't think so. I think that window is shut. I don't think ESPN has any interest in doing that anymore. That is just my opinion. So I don't think there's much of a chance in that at all. And Rebecca Salisbury says ESPN is an absolute pain if we're being honest. It is. In some aspect, it is. It is. There's some parts of the country that it's hard to even get. Same with Amazon, by the way. However, there is some positivity to that. I mean, you will develop more access for the Pac-12 universities. There's a hidden story behind all this. I mean, look at the Big Ten volleyball. Women's volleyball has skyrocketed in the last decade. The quality, the viewership on the Big Ten network is crazy. The matches are filled up. The stands are filled up. This has to do with the Big Ten network. Wednesday night, Sunday night, people are watching. People are filling it up. With the Pac-12, the great volleyball that they did have, and they still have some of it, it isn't watched. It isn't, people don't know when it's on. They can't watch it. They don't have the Pac-12 network. Alumni of Pac-12 universities are all over, scattered all over the country, all over the world. And they can't get access to the Pac-12 network, but they can get access to ESPN Plus. So keep that in mind. Okay, I'm way behind on the comments. I'll get to them as quick as I can. thank you for all coming in. I appreciate it. Remember, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. You'll get notified. Smash that like button. Okay, here we go. No future Big Ten expansion without Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Just beautiful stuff. Give it a try. Give it a try. Rodney Durrett. We'll welcome Gonzaga and any Pac-12 schools that want to join the Big 12. It will be interesting. If there's any information, any leaks coming out of tomorrow's Friday meeting, Big 12 meeting in Dallas about the Gonzaga piece. Again, I don't think Mark Few's going to make any decisions until they see that Pac-12 media contract, but we shall see. We shall see. Very interesting. The satellite over Montana was scouting Mountain West schools for Yormark. That's a balloon up there, a Chinese government balloon. Maybe it's over Minnesota by now. We don't know. I haven't heard the latest news that's going on right now. Are we going to shoot that thing down or not? Tony, sorry to hear about Kenny J. Reminds me of being a kid coming from church to watch AWA before the Vikings game. Getting old, I guess. Tony, you must be the same age as I am. Kenny Sod Buster J passed away. Rest in peace, Kenny J. He lost every single match in AWA. He lost to Nick Bockwinkel all the time. Rest in peace. He passed away today. Luis Carlos Diaz, San Diego State. Popcorn. See what's going on there. Jim Brokoff. One of the big problems Pac have is it should have added some Central Time Zone teams. It would have added value. Now Big 12 is trying to add West Coast teams. Absolutely. I agree.
Call from
Moen.
Moen Vision is in the house. The floor is yours. No, Gene Smith will not become the new Big Ten commissioner.
Yeah, well, I we'll wait and see on that still. I know what Gene says, but what Gene says and does are always two different things.
All right.
We'll wait and see. I'm not saying it, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but you mentioned the Notre Dame fans were going to be happy if Tommy Rees left. I think the happiest person is probably going to be Marcus Freeman. I don't think Marcus ever wanted to be saddled with Tommy Rees. I think his recruiting showed that he wants to have a much more explosive offense like we have here in Columbus or sort of like they have in Oregon. I think he's going to be the happiest if he can get Tommy Rees out of South Bend and put one of his own guys in there.
I agree. I think if this happens, it hasn't happened yet, as far as I know, but if it happens, Marcus Freeman will be ecstatic. I'm
sure Marcus is over there helping him pack his bags, writing him referrals, paying for the plane tickets. He did. I don't think he ever wanted Tommy Rees in there, and I think he's going to be real happy if Nick Saban bites the bullet and takes one for his team. And takes Tommy Rees. So, and then the other thing I wanted to bring up, I know Rebecca's upset that people are down on Kliavkoff, and I know you briefly mentioned it, but a lot of those problems and issues he is bringing on himself. He has made a string of really, really ridiculous statements. Obviously, with the USC-UCLA thing, nobody signs a media deal in January.
Yeah, the Deion Sanders thing.
Yeah, you got to cut people some slack. If you're going to say stupid things, people are going to think you're stupid.
Yeah.
And he's unfortunately said some really dumb things, albeit he's doing it in defense of his conference, so I can appreciate that.
Yeah. He's had
I can understand where he's coming from.
Yeah. I mean, the hand he holds is a 2-7 offsuit. It's not a very good hand. So who knows? Maybe he comes out of this with a better than expected deal when it comes to money and exposure. So we'll see. I think his words have hurt him, just like it hurt Kevin Warren. Kevin Warren, that's a great example. Did it crush Warren's ability to get a great TV deal done, a media deal done? No, but he held a better hand.
Well, and that'd be my last point was we're talking about media partners for the PAC. And I think the thing that's going to hurt the PAC more than anything else is a lack of star power, if you want to call it that, a lack of brands. Outside of Washington and Oregon, and I don't mean to offend the other 8, but there's really not any other team that moves the needle in that conference. So it's going to be hard to go to somebody like a CBS and say, for prime time, you can have Washington State versus Oregon State, or Cal versus Oregon State, or Stanford versus Arizona State. That's just not a very appealing, or I think something that CBS would spend a lot of money to go get. I just don't think that there's enough catalog there of high quality games they feel they could put in prime time with the cost it would take over their original programming, which is going to be, much less expensive and probably draw a similar rating to that.
To play devil's advocate on that, they do what the Pac-12 has though, is demographics that actually buy products and services, right? The advertisers love that region. They don't get enough eyeballs on live sport content, not college. We see that year after year after year. But the people who do watch, they buy. I mean, the demographics, the money, the extra money, the money purchasing power of some of those cities in the Pac-12 country is at a very elite level. We're talking Northern California. We're talking Seattle, Washington. Even in Arizona, there is money out there. They buy their products, and that's why they've been able to keep up. But they do, of course, they're on the part of the country that a lot of people don't watch because they're asleep. They also have problems with the Pac-12 network, and they've had some demographic issues we won't get into here in this show. But, they should have, as that was common in the comments section, they had an opportunity 2010, 2011 to expand with some central time zone, big time schools, and they wouldn't be in this situation as they are right now if they would have done that.
Yeah, but like I said, I just don't see the cost value. I mean, I just can't see CBS laying out another $100+ million to secure a primetime game. Their original programming is going to be much less expensive. I don't think that they're going to get a premium ad rate for it. So I think the PAC is ultimately going to be just left with what they can get from ESPN. And like you said, getting that tier 1, tier 2 rights probably to Amazon. And then Amazon's probably going to have to look at that as like a Friday night game. As opposed to a Saturday night game. They're probably going to have to start playing them like Fridays at,
Yeah, they can't do it Thursday.
East Coast time.
They can't do it Thursday.
Yeah, they can't do it Thursday. Yeah. So it'd probably be, I think you're probably going to see a Pac Friday game, which is going to be your marquee game of the week. And, I know that's probably not good for exposure, but that's, it's going to be the best money deal for them.
Yeah.
And then you're still going to get that 10:30 East Coast ESPN window once a week. So
yeah,
is what it is. But
all right,
unfortunate for him. But that's all I had to say tonight, Greg.
Thanks,
Love the show. Keep it up.
Appreciate the call, sir.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye. Here is the Tommy Rees coaching history. You remember he was a quarterback of Notre Dame about 2010, 2013. I know one of those years he was suspended before the season started for some issues. I think like drinking some beer or something in college. He was undrafted, played for the Redskins as a coach, Northwestern, 2015 graduate assistant, San Diego Chargers, offense assistant, Notre Dame quarterbacks coach, 2017, 2019, then offensive coordinator, 2020 to present, and quarterbacks coach. So far, though, not all that impressive. I mean, the Notre Dame's offense has had no juice. They haven't had an elite quarterback. Now they finally got one in Sam Hartman in the transfer portal. So if Tommy Rees leaves and Marcus Freeman can hire his own offensive coordinator and they can sell to the new offensive coordinator the fact that they've got Sam Hartman for next season, they could get a very good, how about Kingsbury? Something like that. Who knows? We shall see. Get back to your comments here. Bob Dolan, I would give my left arm to get Tommy Rees to take over for Brian Ferentz. No changes will happen at Iowa until Kirk is gone or the wheels totally come off. I guess they haven't. Good one, Bob Dolan. But of course, even though Iowa can't score, Brian Ferentz is still their offensive coordinator. My beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers still can't beat Iowa. Still can't beat Iowa. Yeah. At some point, you got to think the money dries up in Iowa. The donations start to decline, right? The big donors start pulling back a little bit, saying, what is going on here? Why is Brian Ferentz still the offensive coordinator out of Iowa? Because he's the son of the coach, head coach. At some point, you would think the money dries up a bit where the president of the University of Iowa steps in because the athletic director doesn't seem like he's going to do it. Yeah, that's a big story out of Iowa. Tony, yes, read a story today that Iowa will not be making any coaching changes. Nick Saban was disappointed he couldn't get Iowa's offensive coordinator. Wow. All right. Bob Dolan, again, I would give my right arm to get Gary Barta, Iowa's athletic director, to be the Big Ten commissioner. Luckily for me, my arms aren't going anywhere. Garrett Ravert, to be honest, I'm thinking Kazano just hasn't talked to someone who has seen an offer. Thus, his article. I don't know. I keep thinking back to, and I wish I remember who reported it, but somebody reported something to the effect of the Pac-12 has made a strong offer or a formidable offer or some type of strong offer to Amazon and ESPN saying this is what would it take for us to get the deal done. And it didn't go anywhere. And during the exclusive window negotiations where only Fox and ESPN could negotiate with Pac-12, it didn't go anywhere. So, Tony, is Condoleezza Rice moving up the hot board? I don't believe so. Condoleezza Rice, I think, is firmly set as an NFL board member of the Denver Broncos. I don't think she's going back to the college game. Anthony, I finally caught a live show. Congratulations. Congratulations. I'm glad you can make it in, Anthony. Appreciate you coming on in. I know you've been missing them. Thanks for coming on in. Steve Snook says another $5 to $6 million over 7 years. Do the math. That is an extra year of revenue. Good point, Steven. Good point. Garrett says Amazon has Thursday Night Football for a reason. They could have bought a time slot on Sunday or Monday, but they wanted to be the sole service on a day. And again, Garrett brings up a good point. I mean, look at the ratings. We've talked about it. NFL football, Thursday Night Football, has declined dramatically, like 41% over the previous year. The first year on Amazon, it declined. And Amazon was the sole service of NFL content on a Thursday night. Now think about Amazon being a provider of Pac-12 Tier 1 content, and some of that is being played over on a Saturday. How much would the eyeballs, the ratings decline in that situation? I would be so afraid if I was Washington and Oregon and Utah. I think that is, I don't even, if you take Casano's report, you think it's accurate, okay, let's say it's accurate. And where the Pac-12 Executive Committee, the Washington State, Stanford presidents have not seen an offer yet, maybe that's why things haven't exploded even more. I mean, what happens if an offer comes in and Amazon is the carrier of the Tier 1 Pac-12 content? What happens then? That is why I think the reports that Washington and Oregon are not stalling this deal, they're not applying their leverage and stuff. Well, of course they won't, because if a deal hasn't been seen yet, why would they act now? And again, we gave you the intel a couple live shows ago before about Arizona State. Somebody representing Arizona State voiced their displeasure at the process of what was going on in the Pac-12 media rights. That happened Monday. Take it however you want to take it. But something's going on there. Okay. Daniel Kopcha, nice to see you in the house, sir. Hypothetically, if you are Arizona State, and you are considering leaving, would you rather get $20.8 million with 12 Pac-12 teams or $27.1 million with 14 Big 12 members with no pay bump? Let's look at those numbers. I'm not sure, Daniel, where you're getting those numbers from. I would expect Arizona and Arizona State to get more than $20.8 million in a Pac-12 deal. I think it's going to be close to $30 million. Now, you're talking about 12 Pac-12 schools, so you're expecting expansion, as I am with San Diego State, possibly SMU or whoever, and you think that I don't think those schools are going to drop that much in revenue. So I don't think it's going to be 20.8. 27 million with 14 Big 12 schools. Again, I think if Arizona and Arizona State decided to leave to the Big 12, I think they would get the 31.6 million or very close to it. Because very close to it. I know it's only ESPN that has the pro rata clause with the Big 12 and basically assuring, not 100%, that ESPN would pay out the same revenue for adding two of those Pac-12 Power 5 schools, and Fox Sports is not part of that pro rata clause. But if you're adding Arizona basketball program to the Big 12, yeah, I think Fox Sports would say, okay, let's get this done. So I think they would be very close, if not on the button, to the other Big 12 schools in regards to revenue. So I think it's going to be a few $1 million difference. I think it's the exposure piece that's the big difference. And we've been saying that for a couple of months here at Peek Around the Corner. I think other people are catching up to that fact that this is a high risk game here, that some of those high top brand Pac-12 schools are playing right now. They have to play this, right? They have to see what happens here. But this is high risk for those universities in exposure. Rebecca, Washington president, wants the Pac-12 network gone. Absolutely. Don't blame her. Do not blame her at all. Rory says, I agree with Rebecca that any pronouncements of Big 12 outperforming Pac-12 on media is premature. Until we see the Pac-12 media deal there, we don't know how they compare. Absolutely. Cornelius Green, the only other conference network to shut down was the Mountain West Conference. Again, phone number 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. Call in. The floor is yours. You can talk about Tommy Rees. You can talk about Brian Ferentz staying at Iowa for the offensive coordinator position. You can talk about Rashada being the quarterback at Arizona State. He's not going to be the starter. Drew Pine is, but he's going to Arizona State. Talk about anything you want in college football. Give us a call here at Peek Around the Corner. Son of Sarek, nice to see you in the house. ABC has ESPN, Fox has FS1, NBC has USA. Maybe CBS can upgrade CBS Sports Network by incorporating the Pac-12 network. I think ESPN is going to be willing to deal with the Pac-12 in regards to putting their third-tier content onto the ESPN Plus platform. I really think if there's anything that I'm gonna get right in this whole saga, I think that's what's gonna happen. I think Pac-12 third-tier stuff is going on ESPN Plus, mirroring what the Big 12 does with their third-tier content. I don't think CBS Sports Network is going to be in play, or anybody else. I think it's going to be ESPN Plus, and it's going to be called the Pac-12 now, something to that effect. More access for Pac-12 fan base, alumni, faculty, student athletes, family and friends. They can watch their child, brother, sister, cousin, neighbor, watch their games on ESPN Plus. It's going to be a lot easier. It's going to be beneficial to the sports teams in the Pac-12. I think that's what's going to happen. The Trench Grinch is, what's the alternative to having no Pac-12 network? ESPN Plus. I think that is the alternative. The Trench Grinch, I told you all that Rashada was going to ASU. I believe I remember you saying that, Trench Grinch. Rashada to Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham gets his guy. Kenny Dillingham gets his guy. I do have to say, though, to Trench Grinch and Arizona State fans, Dillingham has to tighten up his communication a little bit. He was talking about when Rashada was going to enroll at the school. Officially, technically, a head coach cannot talk about a player that's going to be on his roster until he... Well, no, wait. He did sign the letter of intent. Forget what I was just going to say. I believe Rashada did sign the letter of intent so Dillingham can talk about him. Forget it. Sorry about that. Okay. Gary, really hoping most Pac teams come to the Big 12. I don't know if any of you guys caught Dana Holgerson. He had an interview with Houston's head coach. He had an interview with the press there in Houston, covering the Houston Cougars football team. They had a Zoom call. It's out there on YouTube. You can watch it. And Dana Holgerson was basically saying, we need a call to action. We need support. We're at the bottom of the new Big 12. in regards to resources, staffing. We need donations. He's basically calling everybody out, University of Houston donors. They need money to compete in the Big 12. He looked pretty nervous, excited. He was a long time, years ago, he was assistant coach at University of Houston. He's back there as the head coach, but he's having a calls to arms. We need resources here at the University of Houston. I thought it was pretty interesting. I believe Houston plays West Virginia next year. I believe Houston plays Texas at home here in 2023. And people are talking about discussing possible conference realignment, back and forth, Pac-12, Big 12, the whole history of it. This was a question that Wild Oot, an own member of here, Peek Around the Corner. He's in the chat room now. He's not in here tonight, but he's often great comments, great phone calls. He says, "Hi, Bob." Now, Bob Thompson, we all know he is the former Fox Sports president. Wild Oot says, "Hi, Bob. I've been thinking about what drives TV valuation for schools. I think brand value, football quality, market size, academic prestige, and basketball quality are the most important factors. Would you rearrange this order? Are there any other factors that impact valuation?" Bob Thompson answers, says, being a TV guy, so he's answering this from a TV perspective. Bob Thompson says, "I'm always going to gravitate towards market size. See USC, UCLA to Big Ten. Then I would go brand, quality, basketball, and finally academic prestige. We are doing television sports here, not the GE College Bowl. For the youngsters out there, look it up." So what Bob Thompson is saying, and I'll keep this up here, what Bob Thompson is saying is, from a TV guy perspective, they're not looking at academics, prestige. They're not looking at that when they are offering a media contract. They're looking at this other stuff. Right? The market is number one, the brand, two, quality, three, basketball, academic prestige is last. But when it comes to realignment, the presidents of these universities, they look at academic prestige. That would be moving up in the ranking. That's the difference between TV guys, presidents of these media companies, and academics, the presidents of these universities. So it's why I keep bringing up, I'm at the point where we're still slightly favored odds that the Pac-12 maintains. They hold together those 10 schools because of the academic research part of it all. Those Pac-12 universities want to remain Pac-12 universities. They want to rub shoulders with the shoulders that they're rubbing right now. The connection between the research facilities, all of that plays a part. But when you're handing out media contracts, when you're trying to figure out valuations, when media companies are negotiating with the commissioner and these schools of these universities, they're looking at that market size first. A lot of people have, in the last few years, have expressed this, that the market size doesn't matter anymore because of the way that media is distributed throughout the country. Market size still does matter. Bob Thompson still puts it at number one. Then that brand, of course, is huge, right? Number two, quality of the football, quality of the sports teams, basketball, and finally, academic prestige. I thought I'd throw that up there. Something for you all to think about. Thank you for that question to Bob Thompson, Wild Oot. If you're listening to the live show, thank you, Bob Thompson, for answering it. I would recommend you all to follow Bob Thompson, his Twitter account there. Great resource, great information. Okay, let's get back to your questions here. Comments. Wow, dude, I am here. I just put together a realistic Pac-12 valuation model. Thank you for that question, Wild Dude. I made sure I posted that in our show tonight. Appreciate it. Gary says the Big Ten are desperate to get Notre Dame, so let Big Ten take Stanford and Cal. Don't think that's going to happen. Sean, considering all the exposure Pac-12 schools loses in the next contract, if Pac-12's new media deal gets schools anything under $30 million, I'm leaving if the Big 12 offers. Yeah, you know, another problem with that whole exposure piece is, let's say the Pac-12 gets a deal done. Let's say it's for $32 million a school. Okay? A little bit above Big 12. Let's say it's $35 million a school, whatever. But then, for the next 7 years, however you want to grade those ratings from the Pac-12 being mostly on Amazon, let's say the deal is Amazon, and those numbers still continue to decline, those rating numbers, the number of eyeballs on Pac-12 sports, it isn't going to help their future 7 years down the road. So it's a high risk here, a high risk adventure that Pac-12 schools are on if they incorporate Amazon into the media deal where Amazon is distributing the top games of the year for Pac-12 football. I think it's high risk, very high risk. Wild Oot, estimate percentage of overall Pac-12 value. Oregon, 16.6%. Washington, 11.7%. Colorado, 10.1%. Arizona State, 10.1%. Stanford, 10.0%. California, 9.8%. Utah, 8.9%. Arizona, 8.3%. Washington State, 8.0%. Oregon State, 6.6%. That's Wild Oot's estimates based on some sort of metrics that he has developed after talking to Bob Thompson. Let me know what you think about those numbers. Wow, dude, I've worked on this model for a bit. It's precise. Give us a call at 763-260-1333. That's for the phone number for Peek Around the Corner. A lot of discussions. Rebecca, CBS Sports Network, might as well be Amazon Prime. Yeah, I don't think CBS Sports Network is they're not in play here. I mean, Pac-12's going to get some sort of deal with ESPN or Amazon or both, but they're not going to go putting their third-tier content on CBS Sports Network. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I think the Pac-12, they're going to get some deal done, most likely.
Call from
Larry.
Larry, nice to hear from you. The floor is yours.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, sir.
Good. Hey, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but does it seem strange to you that Oregon, Phil Knight, whoever, flew all the way to Chicago to be told no to go to the Big Ten, and now all of a sudden Oregon and Washington are sabotaging every media deal that comes through?
Okay.
I feel like, so antitrust laws, if four teams leave, say the four schools down in the Four Corners area, you can't get a decent media deal with what's going on and they say, we're going to the Big 12, doesn't that kind of now eliminate antitrust, and now the door's open for Washington and Oregon to go to the Big 10 at a discount rate? And if the Washington legislature can't vote to keep those two schools, doesn't this just all seem a little weird to you?
Oh, it's weird. It's weird. Let me go through your points here. One is, I don't believe Phil Knight made it to Chicago. I don't think he was a part of it. In fact, it was
okay.
The Oregon and Washington met with Big Ten officials on separate days in separate cities, and it was basically lawyers meeting with Big Ten officials. That's the premise of those two meetings. So Phil Knight wasn't there. Did Oregon, for now, get shut down by Big Ten? Yes, we all know that. In regards to antitrust laws, I'm not a big... I don't think that... Just my opinion. After talking with lots of people, I just don't think that played a part. I know people truly believe that played a part, but if the money worked, if the votes were there from the Big Ten presidents, if the money worked, if everyone had the same vision, if they had a commissioner that could rally the presidents and share the vision and actually communicate and consolidate, and that the opportunity was there for the media partner to say, yes, Fox Sports, they would have done it. They would have grabbed Oregon and Washington, regardless of...
Right, now... Right. So I'm of the type of person, I believe what I hear 50% and see what I believe 100%.
Sure.
Okay. Do you think Oregon and Washington would be doing what they're doing with these media deals if they didn't have a way out? Because really, where are they going to go? They could have already gotten the deal. So when the first ESPN deal came through, they said they only wanted 5 years with no strong grant of rights. They said, okay, we'll give you $25 million per team, or $250 million for the conference. With a 5-year weak grant of rights, we'll give you $300 million for a 10-year, but that's going to be a strong grant of rights, and we'll give you $350 million for 12 years. They scoffed at that. So they're not going to the Big 12, because that was pretty much estimated what the Big 12 was going to get. Do you think Oregon would be pulling this crap if they didn't have an exit?
I don't.
They're sabotaging the Pac-12 deal. Think about it.
Okay. I don't. I wish I knew that they were pulling this crap. I don't know for sure that they are. Now, John Casano, you can either believe none of it, all of it, half of it, but his report today was really no one has seen an offer yet, that it hasn't even gotten to that point. I happen to believe that the numbers, that the offers are so low that the commissioner hasn't involved the executive committee presidents to show the rest of the Pac-12 presidents. So I'm not sure Oregon and Washington are pulling any maneuvers. I think they might once they see the numbers, but I'm not sure we've gotten to that point yet. But I could be wrong. I mean, you're hearing some stuff. Go ahead.
Right, but we know they will not sign a strong grant of rights.
That's what we believe here at Peek Around the Corner. We were told that. Yes.
Well, Chris Dodd reported it, John Wilner, and Chris Casano.
Yeah, okay.
Which we can talk about them being somewhat biased.
Yeah.
Chris Dodd of CBS Sports isn't biased. He doesn't. It doesn't affect him. He's CBS guys. So I just, if you look at it from a business standpoint and you're a business, you've got to have where's your money coming from? Where's it? They're sabotaging it. I really believe they are. And there's no way they would be doing it unless they had an exit fee because remember when the Big 12 went down? Let's take it back another year. Remember when the Big 12 went down? The Pac-12 had an audit done of their own worth and the Big 12's worth per team. They already knew what they were worth. So you already have an established number for what your company is worth. You should know when you're going into media rights, you're going to be, let's say you're within $5 million. So ESPN coming, and it was reported that was what was on the table. This was way back, 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's going on. I just feel like Oregon and Washington are leaving the door open because they do have, there is a door open for them. And like we were saying, why would you need all these lawyers and all this crap to get involved to say no? I don't know about you, but if, I'm sure Warren went to the presidents and ADs before he met with these guys. I'm sure he got some input. And Oregon was willing to take whatever they were worth. They would have been fine with $50 million, even though they've been valued around 60. They would have took 50.
Oh yeah. They would have taken any discount. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
So that door, they left with that door being open, in my opinion, with what they're doing right now. My team is Utah, and we're in a very screwy spot. Yeah. We're not good enough to go here. I don't want to say we're better than the Big 12, but whatever.
Yeah.
Because we are kind of an academic institution as well.
Yeah.
And so we're stuck in the middle. We're probably one of the worst ones in the middle. Because we're not Oregon and we're not Washington, but we're not Arizona either.
No, no. And Big 12 has BYU now, so that kind of complicates it. You do bring up a good point. I mean, Oregon and Washington, we know how aggressive Oregon has been. We talked about it all the way in episode 52 here at this YouTube channel. That was months ago. Oregon, realignment always starts with the school calling the conference first. Never the conference calling the school first. Oregon got a hold of the Big Ten soon after June 30th. The announcement of USC and UCLA joined the Big Ten. They were able to get a meeting with the Big Ten. We know this from Dennis Dodd and Brett McMurphy's reporting. So I don't see it. I don't see it as an impossibility that Oregon has called the Big 12, right? They're leaving no stone unturned. And we've read reports that Oregon and Washington would actually be an additive to the Big 12, that the money would actually go up for those Big 12 schools, that Oregon and Washington, they wouldn't make $31.6 million. They might make 33, 34, 35, 36. Who knows what that number is? Plus, they would have the exposure part of the Big 12. So
right. Well, you have to. Now, Fox is not going to pay for Oregon and Washington to go to the Big 12. So, if they say they went, they're only going to get 60 something percent from ESPN. Correct?
I don't think that's correct. I mean, Fox Sports is not part of the pro rata clause in the
right.
But it doesn't mean that they won't pay market value. I think they would. I think they absolutely would. I think Fox Sports, they have USC and UCLA on the West Coast.
Right.
And they really don't, they're not really all that interested in getting involved in the Pac-12 media deal. So why not pay for Washington and Oregon to get in the Big 12? I'm not saying this is going to happen. 2 months ago, I would have shook my head and said, no, Oregon and Washington would never be interested in the Big 12. But now,
Well, it all started, how much of a shock was Texas and Oklahoma? In the middle of the night, they did their thing. Yeah. And then a year later, the Big 12 teams were like, where can we go? Where can we go? And the Pac-12 came together and, hey, should we grab some of these teams, not to eliminate them, to help them out, to maybe increase our conference? 4 schools voted no. Which 4 do you think voted no? They were the California schools. And then while they're saying, no, you can't expand, they're leaving the conference. They're planning on leaving the conference.
Yes.
USC. And so what I'm trying to say is I've seen a lot of disgusting things going on between the alliance while you're stabbing people in the back. I don't put anything past any of these people for the millions of dollars at stake. And I seriously think Oregon and Washington are sabotaging the media deal to open the door. I think that's what's going on. That's my opinion.
What's
going on?
And I agree with you, Larry. And I think this phone call is important because our tagline here at Peek Around the Corner is cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. That is absolutely true. So when you're talking about how USC didn't have really any interest in expanding the Pac-12 because they were keeping their eye on a potential joining the Big Ten the next year, you're absolutely correct. Things are going on behind the doors. I don't know if you were part of our channel on August 10th, if you've been following Flag Empire, but we broke the USC calling the Big Ten on March 31st. You could go to my Flag Empire Twitter account and read that pinned tweet. The Los Angeles Times did an article on us. There was so much cloak and dagger, Larry, that your phone call it's not out of the question. There are a lot of things going. Yeah.
And then, like you say, it's peek around cloak and dagger. Isn't it strange how now all of a sudden Washington legislature is trying to jump ahead of, unlike Texas, after it was announced they're trying to stop it. Now, all of a sudden, you don't think somebody somewhere from Washington State University isn't somewhere in the politics in that state and caught wind of what's going on, which is, I think, the sabotage, and they're trying to get ahead of it. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but with what I've seen with college football, it just kind of disgusts you a little bit.
Yeah, it's the Game of Thrones. It's rough. It's absolutely rough. Again,
first-time caller, I just caught on. First-time caller.
What?
I said first-time caller, and I just caught your channel about a week ago.
Okay. Well, thank you, Larry, for calling. A lot of this stuff I would have scoffed at 2 months ago, but now I'm open for all speculation on it because the Pac-12's existence is resting on the knife's edge. Not the existence that it's not going to disappear. It's going to remain. Pac-12 is going to be a Power 5 conference no matter what happens because there's too much money to be made in 2026 in the new playoff format in 2024, 2025. Whoever is left in the Pac-12, if it's all 10 schools or if it's just 6 of them, they're going to rebuild again and they're going to remain a Power 5 conference, at least for the next few years. But I'm open for all speculation because there is cloak and dagger stuff going on, and that's why guys like Kazano and Wilner has a 33% chance that basically the Pac-12 implodes because if you wait this long, whether it's in your control or out of your control, we're going along here and the Pac-12 hasn't gotten the deal done yet, the great unknown starts to pop up. And that's what you're expressing, Larry, in this phone call. And there's probably dozens of people listening to you right now saying this and saying, yeah, Larry, he's got it. Something's going on. We don't know what it is, but something's going on that's way more than that's apparent and that's in public.
Right. And if you think about it, so if the Big Ten, because if you have 9 conference games, what could you get to? 18. Well, 18, you've got, the team itself. I mean, Stanford and Notre Dame have a history, and so does USC and Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, you don't think Stanford would be, if they ended up in the Big Ten, you don't think that would be appealing to Notre Dame to have USC and Stanford in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I just think the Big Ten expansion doors are closed right now. I really do. And I'm not just saying that to get people upset or whatever.
Right.
We were told that October 12th. We put it out there. The decision window on expansion was August 15th to October 15th. We reported that in July. The doors closed for now. And I don't think Big Ten is interested in opening up those doors unless they get a call from Jack Swarbrick. And then all hell breaks loose after that. And we at Peek Around the Corner thinks there's a really good chance that Notre Dame eventually leaves their football status, independent status, in this decade, because the world is changing on them. Because these conferences, these super conferences, are getting more and more powerful with their votes. They're getting more powerful in creating new revenue streams and being able to give higher compensation to their student athletes, so on and so on. The Supreme Court is sort of ruling against NCAA, but for now they're giving more power to the conferences. I just think the world is starting to close in on Notre Dame. But thanks for the phone call, Larry. I appreciate it so very much.
All right. Goodbye.
You know, Larry's right. I mean, you know, there's great reporters on this, right? They're going to be reporting what happens in Dallas probably sometime this weekend, maybe even tomorrow. Great reporters out. John Wilner, Casano reporting stuff. Pete Damo reporting stuff. Brett McMurphy stuff. But there's always more stuff going on that gets reported. And I just, again, give you the example. We let people, now I'm a nobody. You all know I'm a nobody. This is the show, the YouTube channel for nobodies, right? We are the outlets, the rebel outpost of college football YouTube channels. On March 31st, we got information. I'm not going to go through the whole story. You can go to episode 22 of how we broke the story day after day after day for 3 months. But when we got word that USC called the Big Ten, we put it out to media companies, USC 247, Minnesota 247. We gave them all the evidence. We gave them the evidence that the Big Ten knew about what we were doing at Flag Umpire. They followed us at 9 separate times right away after we said USC called Minnesota. We forwarded that information. We forward all of this information to John Wilner and people out in the West Coast, and they didn't pay attention to it. So I even asked a question to Wilner on a mailbag. I think it was in April. I said, look, USC, da-da-da-da. And he said, no, USC is not going to leave this conference, maybe in 2030. That's what his answer. Eventually we said, okay, we're going to not push this information out. No one's listening to us except for USC 247. They had the story for 3 months. They had podcasts on it. Minnesota 247 had All Eyes on Big Ten. There was so much cloak and dagger stuff going on that even if I revealed it all today, half of you would say I don't believe it. Even though you're part of the show and you've seen, you know, I put out a lot of it on my Twitter account. There's so much stuff going on. So when Larry says, look, I think maybe this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, and maybe some of us are shaking our heads, well, geez, you know, it does happen. Stuff does happen like this. It's the prisoner dilemma. It's one school isn't quite sure what the other school is going to do. If Oregon and Washington, if they scoffed at the idea of joining the Big 12 3 months ago, well, now they're saying, geez, we haven't even gotten an offer yet that we can even look at, that we can even discuss yet among the Pac-12 presidents. There's nothing there for us to even look at. Maybe the Big 12 offer, maybe in Arizona or Arizona State is seriously looking at that offer. And if they are, and if they jump, and if we're not in the boat jumping, then we're stuck. You know, it's a matter of trust. Do you trust the guy next to you? Do you trust the lady next to you? There's so much stuff that goes on. And all right, we'll get back to your comment. Mona Vision, thank you for the donation. I appreciate you, Mr. Buckeye. Cloak and dagger, drink up. That's the drinking game here at Peek Around the Corner. You guys just wait. You guys just wait. I mean, some of the stuff's going to come out. We got a story that's brewing out in the ACC. We're going to talk about in the spring. Tony, I go with December 26th, Day of Infamy. Larry, who's new to the show. We got a lot of new people coming into the show. December 26th at Peek Around the Corner, we were going to go with the story, and we stood down at the very last minute. I felt horrible. We did a bait and switch on all you guys and gals. We apologized profusely for it. We were going to go with the story, but the story hadn't ripened yet. We were asked to stand down. We stood down. But there is a story brewing. We don't know where it's going. We're going to report it when it's the right time to report it. Other people know about the story. It's just not us. So hang with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Cloak and Dagger, Cloak and Dagger, Cloak and Dagger. Drink up. Jesse Wilson, did my donation not come through? I don't see it, Mr. Wilson. But I thank you for the attempt. I appreciate it. Larry Pilgrim. In yesterday's meeting with the Pac-12, Oregon is standing ground and Gore being weak. They have an exit. Okay, I want to bring up this... Jackie Brown, nice to see you in the house. I'm going to get to your question in a second. Rebecca, Craig is going to kill us with cloak and dagger shots we're taking. I want to talk about this grantor rights being weak. It isn't so... Okay, maybe I should change my language on this because I do see people having difficulties. It's my fault. Let's say it's my fault. When I say grantor rights being weak, I'm really talking about, the grantor rights is basically some sort of vague document. The vaguer, the better. Vaguer's a word. The more vague, the better. That's what the lawyers tell us. The less words used in writing the grantor rights, the better it is for the owner of the grantor rights. The grantor rights is individual schools giving up their individual media rights to the conference. So the conference owns the media rights, and it gives the conference the ability to negotiate a better deal with their potential media partners. Having said that, the penalty of the grantor rights, I should be careful when I say this, is you can often see what the penalty is in the conference bylaws. These conference bylaws are different from each other. The ACC bylaws are different than the Pac-12. They're different from the Big Ten, the SEC. So when this media deal gets done, I want to see the Pac-12 bylaws. I want to see it. Because it's the withdrawal penalties that are in there. There's usually a section about that. So when I say the grant of rights being weak, I'm talking about the whole enchilada, the whole grant of rights with the conference bylaws to see what the withdrawal penalties are. And Oregon, I can tell you, we can only tell you from this perception. The Money Perch spoke to us way back in episode 52. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. That no matter what, if they didn't get into the Big Ten now, they're going to keep swinging in the future. And if they sign a Pac-12 deal, the grantor rights will be weak. And I think that means that it wouldn't be insurmountable for them to jump over and get out of the Pac-12 if another opportunity arises. That's how we're coaching the grantor rights being weak. I hope you all understand that. Okay? All right. The more ambiguous, the better. Yes, Gary. Okay, the message board needs a 911 phone call for infusion. That's what Rebecca said. I said earlier, Greg is going to kill us with the cloak and dagger shots. Okay, Jackie. Thanks for coming in. Penn State Nittany Lion. Jackie Brown. Penn State. In my way too early predictions for the Big Ten 2023, which we haven't done a show on yet, I got Penn State winning the Big Ten East. Monavision's not happy. Michigan, Curtis and other people that come into the chat room, they're not happy with me. Penn State with Allen and Singleton, the running backs. Look out, baby. Look out. Jackie Brown. Hey, Greg, what do you think of NBC's Big Ten Saturday Night Crew? Geez, I can't remember the name. Noah Eagle and the old time Penn State quarterback. I can't remember his name. Good. I like it. I like it very much. I like that tandem. I can't remember the guy's name. The quarterback, Penn State. You guys will let me know in the comments section. I like that combination. I don't know much about the sideline reporter. Todd Blackledge. Thank you, Jackie Brown. Jeez, I'm getting old. I refer to him as a Penn State quarterback. I don't refer to him as an announcer. A lot of people here in the chat room only know him as an announcer. I remember him as the quarterback. Number 14, I believe. Number 14, Todd Blackledge. Yes, I like Blackledge. I like Noah Eagle. Tapping. Yes, thank you, Tony. The chat room here at Peek Around the Corner. Elite. Top of the line. Top of the line. The host is an idiot, but the chat room is spectacular. Gary says, Michigan dominates the Big Ten. The Michigan Wolverines, defending, reigning, undisputed, two-time Big Ten champions. Can they go 3 in a row? They're stacked next year. Absolutely stacked. But for right now, I got Penn State. Gotta have an upset. We got a phone call. That might be a Michigan fan yelling at me. Hold on.
Call from
Jonathan Weaver.
Jonathan Weaver, nice to see you in the house, sir. The floor is yours.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Go Hawkeyes.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Question, when you talk about, the exclusive window of the Big Ten expanding, was that just because Kevin Warren couldn't get the job done? Because it seems like he wasn't liked by many of them.
No, he wasn't.
So is it that they didn't mind expanding, they just didn't want him to be the one leading it?
No, I really think they did not want expansion. They did not. There's enough votes there, enough concrete votes there, where they didn't want more expansion at this time. And
it just kind of strikes me as odd. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It just kind of strikes me as odd that the Big Ten and the Pac-12, or whatever version of the Pac-12 you want to call it, throughout its 100-year history,
yep,
they've always been really close. So if the Pac-12 goes down, I just find it really, really strange that the Big Ten is going to let those teams just sit out there and float in the wind.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They've been sister conferences since the Pac-12's been in existence. I don't think here's Big Ten is not going to expand. Now we can talk about how they didn't get a big enough money offer from Amazon or a potential new media partner. We can talk about all those things. But I really do believe the main reason why the Big Ten decided to stop at 16 is because they didn't feel this incredible need to expand at this point. There's going to be traveling issues and all that. But they really want to see what the world looks like in 2026 and 2027. That's the big gold rush. We don't know. There's other stuff. There's other stuff percolating out east. I think they just wanted to breathe, relax, and see what the world looks like 2026, 2027 in regards to the expanded college football playoffs, because it all changes again in 2026. The agreement we have now is only for 2024, 2025. The money is going to be astronomical in 2026. There's going to be an open bidding war for those playoff games. We don't even know who's going to be in the room to vote to see who even gets involved in this. Is there a split in FBS? Is there incentive for SEC and Big Ten to expand again? Will the playoffs expand to 16, which would invite more incentive for the Big Ten to expand again? I think they hit the pause button on expansion. And we were told they definitely hit the pause button. So I don't even think it's about Kevin Warren so much. Now, will my ears perk up, Jonathan, if Mark Silverman is announced the new Big Ten president? Yes, I'll say, okay, hold on. I'm going to have to go back to Jonathan Weaver and apologize to him if he's somebody like that. But I really do think Big Ten is totally in a pause situation on expansion for the few years to come.
Because my question is when the ACC grant of rights goes away, which it eventually will.
Yep.
None of the ACC schools feel like a Big Ten school. USC and UCLA don't even feel like Big Ten schools.
Let me ask you a question. Since you're a Hawkeye fan, so I can understand.
Absolutely.
I can understand where you're coming from. Does Rutgers in Maryland feel like Big Ten schools to you right now?
Absolutely not.
Does Nebraska?
I live on the border of Iowa, Nebraska, so
okay. Yeah.
I grew up hearing about how great the team from Lincoln was.
And that's the one thing Iowa and Minnesota has in common. We have enjoyed beating up on Nebraska lately. I do think there's Big Ten schools in the ACC. And I do think, that's where the Big Ten goes in the next expansion. And I think that's the future of the Big Ten. They're going to go back out east. Huge population demographics, athletes. And there are some Big Ten, big research universities, not Big Ten, not yet. There are some big research universities in the ACC. I do not think the top brand ACC schools, if they're going to stick it out for the next 13 years and get behind like this in money and exposure, but especially money in this situation with the Big Ten and SEC, it's unbelievable how far behind they're going to fall. I mean, it's staggering just to think about it. 45 million a year difference between the Iowa Hawkeyes media money versus Florida State. Year after year after year, add all that up. I mean, that's just unbelievable. So eventually something's going to pop out there. And we might have more of it here in the next couple of months. We may have a story to talk about. So stick with us here, Larry. I appreciate your phone call.
Have a good one.
Thank you, sir. All right. Give us a call at 763-260-1333. College football's peak around the corner. please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate to the channel to help us keep the lights on, if you want to make your comments seen right away, hit that $, give us a donation. But please give us a call, 763-260-1333. Put that number in your phone, because we're going to be doing live shows all off season, all during the season. We do watch parties. We do episodes almost every day, not quite every day, talking about everything in college football. So if you love everything in college football, if you want a YouTube channel that hits on everything, like the quarterback battle that Ole Miss is going to be going under, the offensive coordinator situation at Iowa, Tommy Rees going to Alabama. If you want to talk about it, discuss it among your friends in this college football community, join us here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. Okay, here we go. Rebecca, Florida State is the wild card. I don't think they want to be in the SEC. Interesting comments from Rebecca. Monavision, UNC, UVA, Georgia Tech are all Big Ten schools in the ACC. Tony says, sorry. Tony says UNC, Florida State. For me, Cornelius Green believes Oregon and Washington will go to the Big Ten eventually. They're going to keep swinging, folks. They're going to keep swinging. Cornelius Green also says folks in the Big Ten country needs to adapt and change. Adapt and change. Jackie Brown says North Carolina and Virginia would be my top two. Cornelius Green said the Big Ten is slow to embrace NIL. There are some schools. Let's talk about NIL. Thanks for the segue, Cornelius Green. Appreciate it. Talk about NIL. It was reported yesterday that NCAA is now going to have, in regards to enforcement of the name, image, and likeness, if someone brings up a possible violation to a certain school and it seems plausible, I'm not sure plausible is the right word, but it seems like it could be true, the onus is now going to be on the university to prove it's not true. In other words, kind of like you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. Now, we all know that's not the American way. But I got to tell you, I kind of like it in this situation. This isn't criminal law. This is not civil law. No one's going to court. So it doesn't, it's not under the Constitution. It's the NCAA saying, look, we don't have the staff to enforce all this stuff. So we're going to consider, not everything, we're going to consider it true until you prove that you're innocent. But they're not going to just take anybody coming up and saying, hey, NCAA, North Carolina just cheated here with NIL. They're not going to just take any accusation. I saw someone, I don't know if it's some college reporter said it beautifully today. He said, look, the NCAA is doing this because, and the NCAA is doing this new rule for NIL, this new enforcement policy, is because the athletic directors want them to do it. NCAA, they are basically the NCAA president and everything. The presidents of the universities are the one that hires the president of the NCAA. The athletic directors wanted this to be a policy change, an enforcement policy change, because the athletic directors trust the NCAA to be able to separate the nonsense accusations to the plausible accusations on violating NIL rules. The athletic directors trust NCAA staff to do that more than the athletic directors trust the athletic directors next to them and across from them in following the current NIL rules. You understand what I'm saying? That's where the rubber hits the road. The athletic directors, especially, of course, the ones that are following the rules, they're not trusting anybody. They know a lot of people are breaking the rules. So they submitted, they got this done, a new enforcement policy on NIL. If an accusation comes forth through the NCAA and looks like it's reasonable, the NCAA will go to the school and say, prove that you did not violate, prove that you did not do this. Put the time and the energy towards the school doing this, because the NCAA, as of right now, does not have the staff, the ability to go around policing all of this, all these violations that are going on. And when I mean by violations in name, image, and likeness, it's two-pronged. One is that schools, in connection with the collectives, are promising kids, student athletes, a certain amount of money before they sign the letter of intent, before they enroll in a class if they're a transfer student. They're promising all this money. They're having a contract signed before the student comes in, like the Rashada case in Florida, but there are cases all over the country. And that is in violation of NIL. Some schools are doing that. Some schools are not. The schools that are not are fed up with it. That's why there's a new enforcement policy. So NIL it's not supposed to be used as an enticement for recruitment to get them in the doors. The other part of this is the tampering issue. The athletic directors across the country are fed up with the tampering of when you got a person on your roster who has not put his name in the transfer portal, and yet he's being contacted by collectives that are connected with universities and sometimes coaching staffs of that university. That happened at the University of Minnesota when Kansas State violated NIL rules and tampered with a University of Minnesota player who had not even put his name in the transfer portal yet. Athletic directors are fed up with that. So that's why the new enforcement policy is now in place. Is it imperfect? Is it a solution yet? No. But I want to give it a chance. I want some people to feel the heat. I want some punishment for those who violate the rules. Okay? Am I being naive? Am I being crazy here at Peek Around the Corner? I probably am. Let's get to your comments. Cornelius Green, my South Carolina Gamecocks had an in-house NIL operation, Park Avenue, but the NCAA stupidly put the kibosh on it. Tony, I wonder what some of the ACC schools that the Big Ten and SEC will do. How would the decision be made? My guess would have to do with money. Cornelius Green, I think Oregon used NIL inducements to get most of the recruits. Well, allegedly, Bucky Irving. I'll just say that. I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, went from Minnesota, transferred, went to Oregon. Did he get contact before he went in the transfer portal? Allegedly. The Trench Grinch. My fellow No fans want SEC, but it seems like the university wants the Big Ten. Sean Sang says North Carolina alumni still considers it Southern, so I give the SEC the edge. Virginia maybe not so much anymore. Could see FSU partner with Georgia Tech more than Miami. Gregory Krug, I hope that I'm still alive when the ACC collapses. I'm not anti-ACC, but the whole thing is going to be fascinating. Yeah, it is, Gregory. It is. I hope I'm alive as well when that happens. But stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. We might be having some information in a few months from now. So we're going to close it up for tonight. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 9 minutes. We thank you so much for joining us here at Peek Around the Corner. Lots of things happening. Tommy Rees, coordinator, Notre Dame. Is he joining Alabama? Big 12 meetings in Dallas, Texas. Going on today, going on tomorrow. Some information. If something big pops, we're going to go live. We're going to go live right away. So please subscribe to our channel. You'll get notified of our show. You'll be able to come on, give us a phone call, put your comments down. So smash that like button before you leave. It helps us with the algorithms of YouTube so very much. I appreciate all of your support. Another big live show at College Football Peek Around the Corner. We're in the off season, but things are not cold like here in Minnesota, where it's below zero. It's going to be freezing tomorrow. Absolutely freezing tomorrow. Things are hot. Things are percolating. Cloak and dagger. Cloak and dagger. Until next time. From all of us at Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.